Now, an in-depth look at the news and information shaping our community. This is Moose Talks with your host, Doug Craig, on Moose FM.
Welcome to another episode of the show. A little later on, we're going to be talking to Steve Tory. Now, he's a Dawson Creek man who is trying to organize support and sponsors for refugees fleeing the Russian invasion of Ukraine. As I said, he's in Dawson Creek, so we're going to talk a bit about what he's doing, why he decided to do it, and what kind of help he needs from you if you're able to open your hearts and your home. So more on that a little later. But first, we like to check in with what's happening in the Northern Rockies Regional Municipality as often as we can. So for an update on things happening up there, we're joined now by the mayor of the NRRM, Gary Foster. Mayor Foster, welcome back to Moose Talks.
Well, thanks very much, Dub. It's always good to be here and talk to you and bring some news of the north to the rest of the Peace region. So
excellent. And I don't know if it's as foggy for you as it is here, but it's we're grateful you found your way through the fog to talk to us anyway. So
it's sunny and cold up here. I think it's minus 15 this morning, Dub. So
well, there you go.
We're still in the north. We're still in winter.
All right. Well, we'll start with healthcare because this is a story we've been following for some time with you guys, and of course, we've had a really big update on this recently. In that Northern Health sort of had, I guess, reached out to some residents and maybe you guys in council to clarify sort of some of the situations and decisions they've made recently about services in Fort Nelson. Including moving lab tech services out of there to kind of Fort St. John for the moment anyway. I wanted your kind of take on those explanations. Were you happy with them? Do you understand the situation?
Yes, and we've been in constant contact with Northern Health. So the situation, Dub, is that two of our lab techs left the community. They went other places for family reasons, etc. But being a small community, when you lose two lab techs, it's a huge blow to the community. Mm-hmm. So Northern Health has really stepped up. They've tried to find us lab techs, but there's a shortage of lab techs, not just in the Northern Rockies, but across the north, across the province, and in fact across the country, where there are not enough lab techs. I believe there was 100 positions available throughout British Columbia that were unfilled because they didn't have enough qualified people. So Northern Health has really stepped up, as I said. They've got an agency lab tech in our community now, and they've created a position for a lab tech clerk here. And they have put in a signing bonus of $10,000 to get a lab tech in our community. The Northern Rockies Municipality has also been active in hiring a recruiter to see if we can't assist Northern Health in recruiting to the Northern Rockies some healthcare professionals, and there may be even an incentive package coming along from the municipality. So both Northern Health and the municipality are doing everything we can to alleviate this problem. I did want to say, though, even though I think we're all suffering from a shortage of nurses, I know Fort St. John is, and Dawson Creek hospitals have a chronic shortage of nurses. We actually are in a good position with nurses and with doctors in the Northern Rockies. It is currently lab techs and some imaging technologists that we are having trouble recruiting.
Mm-hmm. I mean, we hear every once in a while about, frustration from some Fort Nelson residents, people even further away from Fort Nelson have to come here to have babies, for example, and get some things. You did have an advocate working for you for the past year or so in regards to kind of healthcare services. I think, if I remember right, sort of his mandate, he kept saying, was about helping to bridge that communication gap, perhaps between you and council and the government of the municipality and Northern Health. I wanted to kind of get an update on that. Do you think that's panned out? You certainly seem like it's in better spirits than maybe it was before.
I think one thing that Mr. Blackie has identified is, that the importance of a relationship between our council and Northern Health, and a good relationship with Northern Health is absolutely crucial. And I think we've got a good relationship with Northern Health. I know I do. I talk to Kathy Ulrich, the head of Northern Health, from time to time, and Angela DeSmit, who's the head of the health for the Northeast. And as I say, we've got a good relationship. There are always things we can do in healthcare, and we are always striving to provide better services to our citizens, and any way the municipality can help, we're right there with Northern Health. So, and I know Northern Health, you know, they get up in the morning looking for ways that they can improve healthcare services for our community as well. So I think if everybody works together, we're going to find solutions to these problems, and that's important for our community.
I think you've basically identified most of this question, but I just kind of wonder what's next then. Is the advocate kind of done working with you for now, or is there still more to come on that file and working on that relationship with Northern Health?
Well, our council would, so I think we've reached the end of the mandate for Mr. Blackie, but I think we may be extending that for a short while into the future here.
Okay.
If we think there's more valuable work for him to do. There is a lot of things that are happening in healthcare here. So, for instance, one of our doctors has had the initiative to start a CT scan fund to perhaps get a CT scanner into our community. And the Rotary Club has been instrumental in raising funds for that as well. And now Northern Health has come along and said they're going to work on a business case for this CT scanner. So I think this is proof that if the municipality, the community, the doctors, and Northern Health work together, we can improve outcomes for healthcare in the Northern Rockies.
All right, well, that's good news to hear that that's working out. I want to move on to a bit about construction and renovation in the municipality, because, again, we've had some news about this recently, including some needed improvements to the fire hall and the public works building that was only discovered really a couple of years ago in the foundation there. Can you tell us and talk to us a bit about kind of how desperate that situation was? And I believe you guys have earmarked some money in the budget for that to start being renovated this year.
We have, and actually the good news story is we found that there was the deterioration of the foundation of the fire hall and the public works building, and on further investigation, luckily it was not as catastrophic as it could have been. So we've hired a consultant, an engineering firm who's looked at this. We've earmarked funds for this, and we may be getting some provincial assistance to fix this as well. So it has turned out to be A, not as bad as we thought, and B, it's not going to be as costly for our taxpayers as we thought. So those are good news stories, and the repairs are going to be made, and we should be fine.
Okay, yeah, because I think the story I read, we'd heard it may even happen this year, that the external kind of part's taken care of with the internal part taking place next year. Is that accurate?
Yes.
Yeah, wonderful. All right. We also heard this story about the well in Toad River. And their sort of struggle with kind of getting clean water out of, I guess it had been tainted in some way, as I understand it. Can you kind of comment on that situation a bit and what's going to happen next with that?
Sure, it's a little bit convoluted, but in Toad River they had a well for their community center, and so in 2019 they identified that there was a problem with this well. It wasn't producing much water, and so the municipality did some preliminary inspection work and found that this well was failing. So as time passed, it was going to be a company up there that was going to be drilling some wells and for local residents, and we could also join in and get a well redug for the community hall. Now, Dub, this is not potable water. You can't drink this water without treating it. So the flow to the community hall, I believe, was about a half a gallon a minute. So, and the casing in that well was deteriorating. So we got a new well drilled. We got much more volume of water. It is still not potable water, but there's much more flow to the community center there. So now we're going to be looking at next steps, because what we'd ideally like to have is we'd like to have that flow, but we'd like to have that as a source of drinking water for that area. But we have to do some more studies, some more looking at costs, etc. And of course, the municipality is always looking for funding from the province. If they've got some programs that they can assist us financially in this, we'll look at that. So this is still at the preliminary stage here, where we've got the new well drilled. We've got about 6 gallons per minute, which would be enough for that community hall and for us to have like a water station where you can go fill up a jug. But it needs to be chlorinated. It needs to be have reverse osmosis, etc. So we're just looking at costs now, and then those will come to council, and we'll make a decision on where we go from there.
Okay. What are the residents of nearby and in Toad River kind of doing now for their water? Is that the source, and they have to get it kind of treated themselves, or they drilling their own wells? How's that working for them?
Well, I believe some of them have their own wells, but I'm not sure of the standard of the well water, whether it is drinkable or not. I know the one at the community hall is not, but I can't speak for what their individual wells are that they have drilled. So, I mean, it's an issue for Toad River. It's also expensive, to provide drinking water for a small community. But we're going to look at it, and we're going to access whatever funding we can, and we're going to provide as much service to those people in those communities as we can.
Was this something that residents identified as important to them, that they would like a source of drinking water that's provided to them, through a well, like sort of communal, as you said, a water station? Or was this kind of an idea you guys had that, well, if we're going to do this, maybe we could look into making this as well?
Well, there's the Toad River Advisory Committee up there, and they advise council on things that are affecting Toad River residents. So we have about 100 residents there, and so this was something that was identified that might be a possibility for the community. So what we have done is said, well, we'd be glad to look into this and see what we can do. There's been no promises made, but we're going to take a look at this and see what comes out of this. It depends on funding, and it depends on the appetite around our council table for doing this, because it is not inexpensive. But like I say, we always try to provide the maximum amount of service we can for our residents.
All right. I do want to move on to your budget deliberations very quickly as we're running out of time. But you guys have had a budget presented to you. You're going to be voting on it kind of later in the spring and passing it or not, I suppose. What are some of the kind of big ticket items that the municipality is kind of looking at funding this year? And as I understand it, you guys are not going to be raising taxes, or at least propose not to be raising taxes. So can you talk a bit about that?
You bet. And taxation is one of my favorites, because this is one of the things that I think affects most of the people in our community. So for 4 years running, we have reduced the amount of taxation we need to run our municipality. That has dropped steadily each and every year. We have taxed less and less and less. And we've provided the same amount of service in the community with less dollars, even despite inflation. And this year is no exception. So I'm pretty proud of the fact that we have exercised restraint and we've got that budget down. Another thing that I'm very proud of is our asset management plan. So from time to time in communities, there's big capital outlays that are required, like for a fire truck or for a large sewer improvement. Our municipality continually puts money away for these funds so that when those rolling stock, those pieces of equipment, those fire trucks wear out, we have the money sitting there ready to go for a new one. This year, we're going to be doing up to $7 million in road and sewer upgrades and repairs. This is a combination of a backlog that we haven't done for about 3 years, and some that we have got for future plans. So those are some of the things that we're doing in the municipality to provide services for people and to keep the taxes low.
All right. Well, Mayor Foster, we're really grateful you took a few minutes to chat with us and update us on some of the things going on in the regional municipality up north there. Thanks so much for your time.
Well, one last thing, Dub, I
Sure.
just want to thank you for bringing all the news to the people of the peace and doing this, because I think, bringing news to people in our region, from our region, is really important. And I really appreciate what you do. So we don't say thank you enough. So thanks, Dub, for everything you do.
Well, I appreciate that very much. Thank you very much, Mayor Foster of the Northern Rockies Regional Municipality. All right, we've got our second guest on the line now. His name is Steve Tory. He's in Dawson Creek, and he's organizing support and sponsorship for Ukrainians fleeing the Russian invasion. So we're going to talk a bit about that today. Steve, thank you so much for taking some time to chat with us on Moose Talks today.
Thank you for having me.
You're very welcome. So why don't you tell me a bit about this initiative you're running? Because, of course, we've all been watching the news closely recently. We all know what's going on in Ukraine with the Russian invasion. You saw this and saw an opportunity to maybe help out, didn't you?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I believe in having a state of readiness. You know, I'm the guy that keeps fresh water stored in his basement and a stockpile of food and things. And if this war does go on for much longer, there are going to be too many people fleeing for the nations of Europe to be able to support by themselves. And there's certainly people coming here to be closer to their family that is already in the peace region. So I want to help people get ready to support that.
Yeah, and I know that, earlier this week when this story first came out, and I'm sure the number's higher now, they were always saying 500,000 refugees fleeing the country. Canada has, the government anyway, the federal government has said they're going to fast track and make the process easier for Ukrainian refugees to come into Canada. But yet you still sort of stepped up and said that there was more you could do. So why did you decide to take this on? And what about this did you say I could still help in spite of the fact that generally, I think you could say the government's been pretty reasonable about saying, yeah, we'll step up and help out too.
Yeah, certainly. I mean, first and foremost, I don't count on the government, more than I've got to.
Yeah.
I know they'll be there if I break a leg, but I'm not going to expect them to, do everything. And if you turn on the news around this crisis, there's a lot of talk around the politics of it, or there's a lot of coverage of the action angle of it. And I want to emphasize that the humanitarian angle is the most important thing. People are suffering beyond what I can begin to describe. And that's the one aspect that ordinary people can really have an impact on. We can relieve some of that suffering by simple things, organizing the supports that are available in our communities, being ready to welcome these people, having clothing and housing available for them, and so I'm rounding up folks that want to help if it comes to that.
Okay, and I'm curious, kind of. And I don't know if you've maybe even thought this far ahead in this, is how you facilitate that, right? So people say, I've got room in my house, I could help some people out. I've got clothing, I've got money to donate, that sort of thing. Where do you come in and how do you kind of facilitate that and coordinate that kind of with, Immigration Canada, who's helping the refugees come in when that starts to happen?
I wish I had a good answer on that. I don't at this time. I'm reaching out to all the agencies that might be involved, Immigration Canada, the United Congress of Ukrainians here in Canada, and I'm certain we will find an answer. The good news is we're blessed with a bit of time. The people fleeing are beginning to reach Germany right now.
Yeah.
There's some wonderful video out there of Germans waiting for them at the train station with open arms and bringing them to their homes. But there's only so many Germans, of course, and other Europeans. You mentioned Syria, or you mentioned 500,000 people fleeing.
Yeah.
6.7 million people ended up leaving Syria during that war.
Wow.
And there's twice as many people in the Ukraine. So we could be looking at over 10 million people leaving the country if this goes on.
Mm-hmm. I have to ask, I mean, this, I don't know when your social media post went up. It's maybe been, I assume, a week or so. What kind of response have you had so far? Have you heard from people saying, I can help, this is how I can help?
The response has absolutely filled my heart, Dub. It's I've been getting contacted by people all over Canada who want to help in any number of ways. And I have to admit, I haven't had enough info to get to them. I'm working on that as hard as I can.
Wow.
I have put up a website, which is helpukrainians.ca, that I'm keeping updated as I learn what individuals can do. We're very early on at this stage, and In addition to trying to disseminate information on a larger scale, I'm still working locally and regionally, so if anybody in Fort St. John or the area does want to get involved, they should get in touch with me. I don't know at this point whether we're going to create a regional organization or whether we're going to have some organization on the local level, but whatever we do, I'm going to support everyone who wants to get involved with this.
All right. Well, that leads to my final question. I think you kind of gave an answer to it already. People are listening now saying, hey, I want to help in some way, or they know exactly how they want to help when the time comes for it. What's the best way to get in touch and say, I can help? What can I do?
So I'm communicating mainly through an email address, peacerefugees@gmail.com. Mm-hmm. People are welcome to reach out to me on Facebook as well. And I am going to be putting a meeting together next week to talk to people directly. It'll be via Zoom, so everyone is welcome, and we should have some good discussion. We have a bit of time, but it's conceivable that we could start to see Ukrainians coming to the Peace Country by next week if they've reached Germany. I mean, there's airports and. It's just the beginning.
Yeah. All right. Well, Steve, I really appreciate you taking some time to chat about this today and working through some of the technical issues with me. Thanks so much.
Hey, thank you, Deb. It's been great to be on.
Excellent. That's Steve Tory with the Peace Country Refugee Support here.